Okay, so this is how you can make the aluminum trim on the side of a 1973 to 1979 Ford truck. You're going to need a heat gun, 2 clamps, maybe WD-40, wrenches, and ratchets. I got a whole bag of stuff from LMC Truck, a whole box, what in the world, and you can kind of find, I'll probably link it, there's a PDF with instructions for it. For all the different trim pieces. If you have all the rest of the aluminum, like here's the stuff for the side. If you're too lazy and just feel like screenshotting it if you already got the parts. And here's what the back looks like. But yeah, I'll throw up a picture here. All these pieces correspond to like a number code. And they kind of have a key at the bottom of the picture that you can reference for each number and how many you need. It's pretty nice. Alright, so how you're gonna put these rubber pieces and these aluminum trim back on a 70s Ford. For things where the kind of tapey stuff is worn off on the ends, you can tape up around here and then use some spray paint. There was this Krylon high heat and it matches it really well for some reason. And you can see that this screw hole doesn't line up with this one because it's been sitting for a little while. So I'm going to show you how to stretch that out. So you're going to want to draw some lines on the table so you know how far you need to stretch the rubber. You got to clamp one end of it to the table. Then you got to kind of stretch this as far as it can go and then hold it really hard with one hand against the table and then work the clamp with the other. And you're going to want to clamp it really tight back there so that once you get it over here, it won't yank it out. It will actually be pretty hard to do this. I kind of sprayed it with some WD-40 and you want to use a heat gun. It does say it's flammable, so if you get nervous about that, you should probably wipe down the rubber a little bit with a towel, like I did on the end, so you can grab it. Alright, so I'm a little out of breath from doing this, but I was able to stretch it to the mark.
Get back to the shape it needs to be.
So what you're going to want to do now is, and turn it on to high heat, and hold it maybe 6 inches off. Keep it from melting the rubber. So yeah, like in the video, it should kind of be stretchier than it was before, and that's a good sign that it's ready. I did that for about 2.5 minutes and it's already better. I did kind of pull it a little bit past the line, so I might have to stretch it when I'm putting it on the aluminum, but when you're doing it, you can do it better than me. If you used a clamp like I did, it'll probably leave some marks on the old rubber piece, and you can kind of get rid of that by melting the rubber a tiny bit by using the heat gun again. And honestly, it's pretty thick, so you don't really have to keep it 6 inches away. Just don't be shoving the metal right into the rubber. It'll start burning through it. I'm gonna let it sit here maybe half an hour so it can kind of chill out a little bit, because that's what I did with the other one and it's fine. So something I forgot to say is you're going to want to make sure these aluminum pieces match up. Like right here, you can see it's at a slight curve and it follows the fender, and then that door is at a slight curve and this piece follows it, and you don't want to get that messed up. So it's been about half an hour and I've left it sit while I was doing some other stuff, and what you're going to want to do is stick one end like in it And you can do that by putting it in sideways and then smushing the other one down in. Make sure you don't push too hard to flatten out the aluminum though. You can kind of fiddle with it and make sure the hole is aligned. Then you can flip it over, screw it in. Since my screws are too long, I got these short little washers in here. It'll help space it out a little bit, keep it from poking through the other side of the rubber, because the other ones I was working on had a little bit of a dot poking out from the end of the screw, and you don't want that. Just took off the clamp, and that looks nasty, but it'll slowly puff back up. Get rid of some of these grooves with the heat gun if you want. But yeah, I left it for a minute, walked around a little bit, came back and it stayed this time. So I think the real key is kind of heating it up for a while and letting it sit tight so it doesn't feel the need to shrink back together as much. So the trick with it is to kind of get one edge of it in, and then you can press the other side in, and it just works all the way down. The clamp also kind of smushes it on the ends, so by heating it up you allow it to flex back to its natural shape, and it'll fit easier back into here if you heat up the ends. Got to be careful when you screw it in, especially after you heated up the rubber, because it can tear it up and it won't catch on the inside of it. So just be careful. How I put these plastic pieces in the rivets, I kind of just, you stick it through the hole and then you slide it in. And I did that on the front here too. What you're going to want to do is stick these on here first, and then you can push it in. On this part there's a finicky little tab, and you got to go all the way through behind the blinker and stuff to get to it. It's a little piece of metal that hooks like this. You're going to want to have, I'm pretty sure you have the rubber on the inside of the fender, and then the bolt, tiny little bolt, screw, whatever, that's holding on the tab goes here. So first on the door you're going to want to stick the three things in, and then you'll stick these into the aluminum piece by sliding them in through a gap that's on the end. For this part, since there's two of these black pieces on it, they gave you two little dents that you can slide it into. Now that both of the pieces are on there, you gotta kind of line it up with one of the holes and stick it in, and then you just kind of get the other one in. And once you got both ends in, then you can kind of hang it on there, and it's gonna kind of, you want to get it lined up on the edges. Then you just kind of press it on. These three clips. Ignore. No. You can access the black piece on this end through here, and then in this end, where is it? Right there in the door. And then for this other side, it's a tough one. You gotta get right there. You can see it poking out. You can get a tiny little socket wrench and get up in there with your hand. And it kind of started on. You don't want to tighten it too tight because it is a little piece of metal. Really, it goes really easy, so you just stop tightening it before you break it, because it's just ever so slightly flexing it in there and pulling it into the door. So I went ahead and did the sides. For the short bed, there will be 7 of the white clips on either side, and there will be the little black clip that was on the door. And then on the end, there will be a kind of weird shaped thing that you twist into there, and it will hold it on. On the back over the tailgate, it's just got 2 screws, and that's it. And then over the bottom one, there are clips along it, and then 2 screw holes. The top one don't got any screw holes because it's got a clip that has a nut in it. And then there's the little handguard thing, and it's got 2 little screws in it. And then the last piece I put on was this aluminum piece going over the door. And you kind of got to hook it over the top first and then push it down and just all the way around. And the whole point is that it's aluminum, it's flexible, it's okay if it bends. So yeah, there's the truck.